That is
Okay.
streamed. Looks like it's working. Yay.
We're working on it here. So you have probably come across the statement that marriage takes a lot of work, that it's hard. And if you've been listening to me for any period of time, you know I don't believe that. But I'm Lesli Dories, your marriage coach, creator of the Hero Husband Project, and owner of Foundations Coaching. And today I'm joined by my friend, Dan Zahner, because he has just graciously agreed to come on here to ask and to talk about what he has found to be the most challenging part of being married. So, Dan, how would you answer that question?
Yeah. So the most challenging part is setting boundaries, honestly. Like my wife is amazing. She's super supportive and loving and everything you would want in a spouse. And I find it really hard to ask for what I need. Like we're in a stage of life where we've got young kids. They're 9, just about to be 7, 4. And so we get the kids to bed, and the only time we get to actually hang out and talk like adults is, after 9 p.m.
Right.
And ideally, I'd be asleep at 10:30 or even a little earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But, she really likes my presence, likes my company. And
Which is a good thing to like the person you're married to.
It's fantastic. And, then we'll end up, hanging out and watching a show until 11:30. And I, wake up later than I want to in the morning. Instead of 5:30, it's 6 or 6:15. And that quiet hour before all chaos breaks loose in the house is shortened to 45 or 30 minutes. And the way my temperament is, it just feels like I don't get any time to myself to like take care of my own needs. And so that's challenging.
Yeah, so you've said a couple of things that are really important, because one of the biggest challenges to being in a long-term relationship is balancing what you as an individual want, need, versus what needs to happen in the relationship, or in your case, the greater family, right? Which really is a critical component, because people are, again, very common thing about marriage, you're told you have to sacrifice and compromise. And my view is if you do either one of those things, eventually you're going to be dead in the water. Yeah. And so it's how do we do this? And you're talking about boundaries, and it's about priorities. It's really about how do you make room for you as the individual, you as the partner, and you as the parent. They all have to be there, right? But we have 24 hours in a day, right? So, and this is truly what makes it hard. So I have a question. I know that women feel this way, and I'm wondering if men do too, about feeling guilty if they are taking care of themselves, if they are doing something that is strictly for them, that then takes time away from either being a parent or being a partner. Is that something that resonates with you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's a big piece of it, right? Is, I feel guilty when I say, hey, I know you just got out of a stressful day, and you just escaped from the kids, and it's now 10 o'clock because you fell asleep putting the girls to bed, and I'm going to sleep.
Right.
Like, I feel really guilty if I do that.
Right. And in some cases you hit on it, because it is about boundaries. It is about setting priorities. And there are going to be times when external circumstances are such that we just have to do what we have to do, right? But a lot of cases we have much more choice. And so it really is about being intentional and figuring out how can I get time for myself? How can we have time as a couple? How do we spend time as a family? And it's challenging, right? And in some cases we can do it where it has the minimal impact on other people, right? So Meaning if I want to go work out, I might decide to get up a little bit earlier or go on my lunch hour or sometime when it's not really involving anybody else but me.
Right.
And everybody differs on this, right? Some people need a lot of alone time. Some people don't need any. I mean, so it's having that conversation with your spouse. And the one thing that if I could really get clear to people who are in your position, who have younger kids, right? I mean, your kids are capable. I mean, they're not like the infant stage where you have to do everything for them, but they're kind of at the fun stage where you want to interact with them, right?
Yeah, in pairs or solo, like all three of them interacting with
Right.
is like a
Right.
lot.
And the only thing, and by the way, I'm going to tell you, I have two grown children. They're both adults, so there is light at the end of the tunnel. And the fact that you and your wife like each other is a great thing, because when they do go away, you're still going to, oh, I have this person I enjoy spending time with.
Right.
But
And
you
that's
need
what
to
we've
be
been
doing
focused
that
on
at the same
and are pretty good at is prioritizing that time together. But I've been realizing over, I don't know, at least the past 6 months since we moved from Indiana to Oregon, and kind of everything changed. But even before that, like really good at prioritizing time with Tracy, but not like prioritizing what's actually going to keep me healthy, whole, and sane.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way in which you do that is you actually have to build it into your schedule, right? Because you are going to be a better partner and better parent when you feel good about yourself. And this is why this sacrificing doesn't work. There are times when we can do it, but it has to be short term. We can't be doing it forever because we just can't function that way. And so it really is deciding what matters to you and what's enough. So when my husband and I first got together, I danced 4 days a week. Once we had kids, I cut back to the point where I was only dancing once a week, but I still was dancing because that was my mental health activity. That was what made me feel good. So I didn't cut it out altogether. I just, it evolved, right? And that's kind of what's helpful, is to have it evolve. But you have to start with not just what do I want? And then what is absolutely essential? So how much sleep do I need? Do I need to exercise, whatever? And then you construct your schedule, right? And you construct your schedule then with, okay, so when can my wife and I be together, right? That goes on the calendar. And the thing that gets, I think, a lot of people imbalanced is the focus on the kids. And yes, we want to spend time with our children. Absolutely. I love my kids. They still seem to think I'm okay because they still come home, which is nice. So, but what they want more than anything is for your relationship with your wife to be really strong, because that's what gives them the foundation. Yeah. So it's like, we do this in our businesses, right? We do this in other things. It's like, how do we prioritize it? And people can get really, very specific about it. My daughter color codes everything, right? So, color code Dan time, color code couple time, color code, kid time, and then you play with it, right?
The other challenge along this lines too, and this is probably more of a us specific thing, but maybe other people deal with this, is when I say something like, I want this on my calendar, on our calendar, so that it actually gets done, my wife reacts with, that feels restrictive and rigorous and not loving. Like, it doesn't feel it's the same way with things like, discussion cards or intimacy apps or whatever. Right. She feels like if it's not something that is just coming from me, but has some sort of tool or technology involved, then somehow it's not loving and caring and intentional and other things that she wants.
Right. I mean, and so it's worth having a conversation about that, because that's a story, right? That's a belief. That's but the question is, what is that about? And it's probably a deeper thing.
Yeah.
Because yes, in the ideal world, and if, by the way, if you find it, let me know, because I'm going to join you, and then I'm going to slam the door.
Yeah.
So nobody else can show up. But understanding what that thought process is, it's because, and it's one thing if it's actually happening without that schedule, but nothing happens without a schedule, right? I mean, it's the challenge of having kids. They come into the world, they have their own way of being, but and we get them on a schedule, and then they'll change, and we have to redo the schedule. But we're all on a schedule, right? I mean, and so the question becomes, what makes it less impactful for her? What makes her and whatever she tells you is fine, right? It's just having that conversation, because part of it is, once you get into the habit of doing it, it doesn't feel restrictive. It feels, but it's like changing anything. In the beginning, we have to be more aware of it, and we have, but after a couple of weeks, it's like, I just get up at 6 o'clock every morning and go work out. No big deal. Or we come home and have dinner at 6:30 every night. No big deal. But getting that in place can feel challenging. So asking her focusing on the outcome versus necessarily the how you get there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, sure does.
Great. So has this been helpful?
Yeah, super helpful. Hopefully, been helpful to other people as they've been listening. This has been great. Yeah.
Well, great. So you heard it here. I mean, Dan's talking about some stuff that's really, really common. And if you have questions like Dan did, I would love to answer them. So just shoot me an email or a direct message. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. And until next week, stay loving.